I will take my socks off to do so, simply because it's nicer to actually feel the ground underneath when standing. But you might choose to pop them on and off during the practice today. Also, please make sure that you've got a block or a thicker cushion or a chair with you for the breathing practice. Similar approach to Monday. If we will start warming up the body slightly, get into a breathing practice, and then have another one at the end. Those of you who attended on Monday know what they are, and no news there, but maybe a bit of room for deeper exploration as we repeat. So once you've got your item to help you sit upright, just move the body freely and maybe stepping a little bit forward and backward on your mat. So you're feeling kind of as if you're bringing a little bit of movement into the body. It's very random, got no particular idea around it. And with this little bit of walking, we might find our stance more easily. And that could be with the feet together or the feet apart, whatever works best for you. Coming to stand by pointing the toes forward. Beginning to bring the awareness down into the feet. And what I do, what you likely can't even see, is I'm lifting my toes, I'm rocking that little bit forward and backward over the feet. Giving you maybe also an idea of the ground underneath you and how this feels. Then actually stand still. Begin to bring strength into legs and buttocks. Lifting purposefully all the way up through the crown of the head, as if there was a string attached and that pulls you tall. Then let's breathe in and lift the shoulders up to the ears and shrug them down with a sigh. Do that again, breathing in, sigh out, and one more. Letting that drop. And then let's move the arms a little bit backwards and a little bit forward. So maybe turning the palms forward and then bringing the backs of the hands together. And you could start to bring in some movement into the knees as well. Opening your standings tall and maybe softening as you're bending forward. Suggestion here for the breath is inhalation to open, exhalation to close. And if you like, you can make this movement quite big. So don't hold back. If it feels good in the body, you can lift the arms a bit more. You could aim for even a light back bend. Going for 3 more breaths. And once completed, lift yourself back to standing. Maybe let the arms wiggle for a moment. Get a sense of softness back into the shoulders. While you're standing here now, let's breathe in and lift the arms right out and up. Gaze stays forward as we come to Charlie's Angels Mudra, interlacing the fingers, index finger touching. And as you're breathing out, bending to the right. Just a little at first. Inhale, come to center. And then exhale, bending to the left as well. Now keep moving side to side for a few more breaths. Get into the idea of exploring the physical body in this movement. You haven't had any time to actually focus on the body in stillness. We're focusing on it in movement for now, getting deep into the sides. And when you're next completed, bending left to right evenly, release it. Soften the arms and bring them back down by your sides. You can do so slowly or in the pace of your breath. There might be another need to move through arms and shoulders here. I will ask you now to still stand on your feet, but to come into like twisting movement, starting to flop the arms around you. And since I've picked up a little bit of Qigong, instead of lifting the heel, I often like to lift my toes. You can take this movement higher if you like, maybe tapping to the shoulder, maybe tapping onto your back with the back of the other hand. Then pause to one side, doesn't matter which. Plant your feet down, bring some strength into the legs, and the feet could be turned as well. And if you like, you can reach now the upper arm over the head and stretch right into the side, whichever one that is. Then release your arm down and swing over to the other side and pause there. Again, please plant your feet down. Bring some strength and support into the legs before you might reach the upper arm over the head and across, bringing length into the other side. And then release that. Let's breathe in, just standing with knees soft. And on the out breath, tuck the chin in and begin to slide down into a forward bend. Now, if you're using blocks, they might be handy because the body is really this warm, and you might rest the hands onto the block and walk the legs out. Maybe lifting a heel. And as the movement becomes a helpful tool, you might either lower the hands down or just come that little bit deeper in. And if it feels right, pause in the forward bend for a moment as well. Allowing yourself to stand on the feet, the knees bend, the belly to the thighs. If it's not too much blood flow into the head, let the head hang completely. And maybe take a hold of the opposite elbow, adding some extra weight to help lengthen through the spine. Option to sway. Moving side to side if that works. Otherwise, just hanging out for another 2 breaths. And once completed, let the hands fall and get closer to the ground, coming down to sit. Now we will sit for our first breathing practice. We will keep that Surya Vedana Pranayama, the sun breath, but you can choose your seat. So Japanese seat on the heels, using a block, sitting on a chair, or coming into an easy pose. Maybe you prefer your legs out long, or maybe you're even sitting against the wall. So making sure that you feel supported in your seat rather than coming into a seated posture just because you think that's the right one. When you're in your seat, close the eyes. And then make any little adjustments that you might need. If eyes closing isn't right for you, you can always steady the gaze and bring it straight ahead. Notice where your shoulders are positioned. Don't force them where you think they need to be. Allow them to rest in their sockets and get a sense of light opening here in front of the upper chest. Now let's simply take 3 deeper breaths in and out. No technique, just 3 breaths. And then we will begin. Those of you who came here Monday know what this is. For the others, it is a similar technique to alternate nostril breathing, which I'm pretty sure you're all familiar with. So using thumb and ring finger to close off the nostrils. The 2 fingers, index and middle, might rest over on the third eye point. You can at any stage support underneath the elbow with the opposite hand if the arm gets heavy. Now we will begin by breathing in through the right nostril, so closing off your left, inhaling through the right. Close that open and breathe out through your left. Close left, inhale right. Exhaling left. Inhaling right. And exhaling left. And I will ask you to continue that alternating your nostrils. Now, this is the technique in itself, so there's no need to take this anywhere else. If this is what you feel comfortable with, or if you know this helps, this feels good, stay with it. No need to extend it any further. But if you would like to extend a little bit further, you might, in that case, keep the other finger lightly on the open nostril and only a tiny little bit narrowing down of this nostril as well to limit the airflow that comes through. As I said, this is purely optional for you, but if it feels right, this might be a nice extension of this breathing practice. So one nostril is completely closed and the other one could be partially closed, a very gentle resting of the finger there. With that, we're lengthening the airflow that comes through as there is not as much. Only an option. And on top of that, while you keep breathing in through the right and out of the left nostril, you might also choose to balance the length of in and out breaths. Now I will count for you as you practice for a few more breaths. Now one more full breath and then release the technique. Resting your hands down, keeping eyes closed or steady, and checking back in with yourself. Noticing what you're feeling on the different levels of yourself in this seat at the moment. No judgment, just exploration. And take a deeper breath in. Have a sigh out and open the eyes and ready. Taking yourself now back into a standing position. Was someone very cranky outside, so I better let her in. Yeah, you need to behave now. So what I'd ask you to do is stand on one side of your mat, and preferably for this practice, having the mat lengthwise facing your screen so you can see me at all times, or most of the times, I should better say. So we will stand at the side of the mat, and I will guide you through a few movements slowly first, and then we'll bring that into a flow. It is a moon flow, so we'll see how we go with this instead of the sun salutations today. One thing we've done already, that's a breath in to reach the arms up. You could touch just the palms together and cross your thumbs. And when you're breathing out, bending over to your right. Inhale, come to center, and exhale, bending over to your left. Now breathe in, come to center, and as you're breathing out, step your feet out wide. Toes will be turned into the corners of the mouth, and we're coming into goddess pose as you're bending your knees and your elbows. So here you could have your fingers spread out wide, and we're in a quite deep stance. So it's nice to explore the different positionings of the feet, because once we're actually flowing through this, you will quite automatically adjust the feet. Now, as your next inhale, straighten the legs and reach your arms out like a star pose. Make sure your shoulders are still soft in these positions. We will turn the right toes outwards. The left heel maybe a little as well. So the heel away from you and the toes away from you in the other direction. This takes us into a triangle as you breathe into stand, and on the out breath coming into your triangle. Now, as I said, we're exploring these movements slowly. If you notice, for example, oh, this arm is really heavy, you could place it into the side of the waist. But more important here is to change your gaze according to how the neck is feeling, either looking up or down. And then maybe starting to really feel into the front leg and starting to rotate the thigh so the knee comes in alignment with the toes. Keeping a sense of length, even in the lower side of the waist for your triangle posture. Very good. Now let's release the triangle. Bring your hands down to the top of the right thigh. Take the left foot and step it a little bit in and out. This will take us into a pyramid pose. I would love you to keep the pyramid easy by maybe bringing the hands to touch in front, but if you prefer, you can always touch the hands behind or reach for your elbows if this is your choice. I keep it simple, hands in front of the chest, and then folding down over the front leg. Aiming to keep that straight. The block might be useful here, or you can just place your hands onto your shins, or if you can reach onto the floor. The nose will be going down towards the knee as we're standing here, aiming to keep your pelvis in balance. So that's our pyramid pose. From here, bend into the front knee. You can step the back foot a little bit back and bring the knee to the ground, maybe even untucking the toes if that feels good, and leaning a little bit forward into the hips for a low lunge. I really like, and I do that automatically, but you may not be aware of it, to keep an open front knee rather than the foot so close that we're starting to stretch more into the calf and get deep into the ankle joint as well. So keeping an open knee might be useful to get that space into the hips. From here, let's tuck the back toes back under. Land the foot onto the ground. We're moving into side angle pose, the extended variation if that feels right. So your lower arm can stay here, fingers pointing down. You can float it, or the forearm can come to the thigh. The upper arm is suggested to be over the head and extending with the palm facing down. Try not to collapse, especially if you're using the supported variation. If this is too much, same arm as in triangle, you could rest it into the side or extend the arm upwards. Good. From this place, let's push into the feet, rising tall, back into the standing star position. So both legs will straighten, and you might have already turned your toes outwards. We will now change sides, turning the left foot out, the right heel a little, but we're not quite doing the same yet. We're reversing the order. So bring a bend into your left knee and come into side angle pose, your variation to the other side. Please acknowledge that the body is different on the left and on the right hand side. If you need support for your shoulder, maybe your arm is low or resting in the side. Maybe there's a full extension of this pose. Maybe it stays soft. To release from here, bringing your hands down onto the mat. Lift the back heel, land your knee, maybe untuck the toes, and then leaning forward again. So feeling into what I mentioned on the other side, to keep a space behind your left knee. So there's more of an openness coming here through the front of the hip and the thigh than there is any stretch into calf and ankle joint. From here, tucking the toes under, lift the knee, step the foot a little bit in and out. We're approaching our pyramid. So if you can keep the fingertips on the floor with both legs straight and nose towards the knee, or you can bring the hands up higher or use a block. Your choice. Aiming here for balance in the pelvis. Now from this point, I will step my back foot out and open it again for a triangle. I bring my hands to the inside of the leg and then I will unfold by lifting the right arm. There is a good likelihood that this triangle feels more collapsed. So think about the length and the strength that is in the torso that helps us to feel all of these different triangles or shapes of a triangle you can find within this pose. Notice how is the shoulder, where does the gaze need to be? Is your neck at ease or engaged? I suggest to bend the front knee just to make it easier to rise to stand, turning back into your star. As we breathe in to simply stand, and on the out breath returning to the goddess pose. So bending once more into the knees, into the elbows. And then from here, stepping over to the other end of the mat, the arms reaching up. And bending to the left. I've crossed my thumbs here. Coming to the center. and bending to the other side. Coming to the center and then releasing the arms. For a moment, we will pause here at the end of the mat, and you might choose to bring in some movement. Some of you might need a sip to drink or whatever else you might need. I suggest that in this next round, as we won't hold the poses that long, maybe brief pauses within them still, we will start on this other side of the mat. Let's breathe in, lifting the arms up. Our breath bending to the right. Inhale, center. Exhaling, bending to the left. Inhale, come to center. Step your legs out wide into goddess pose as you're breathing out. Inhale, straighten through arms and into the legs. Prepare your feet, triangle pose. On your next out breath, turning towards your left foot. Or the other one to before. From your triangle, swing your arm down. Maybe adjust the back foot a little. Hands can be at the heart or behind the back, or resting against your support as you're folding down into a pyramid. Let's lift the back foot, step it a bit further out, lower the knee, untuck the toes, and move forward into your lower lunge. As you observe the sensation you experience in the slower round, you will be able to adjust your posture if needed. Tucking the back toes under again, lower the heel to the floor, side angle pose with or without support. Your choice of arm may be extended over the head. Lifting back up into standing. Turning your feet all the way around. And the side angle pose to the other side. Releasing your hands down and your knee. And starting to move forward into the low lunge. As you tuck the toes back under, step the foot in a little bit, come into your pyramid pose. Turning the toes outwards, unfolding into triangle. Bend the knee as you're lifting up to stand. And your goddess pose as you're breathing out. Stepping the feet together to the other end of the mat. Reaching the arms up, maybe crossing the thumbs. And on an out breath, bending to the left. In breath center. Exhale, bending to the right. Lifting again. And releasing the arms. Once more, take a break. Just focusing on how you're feeling. Move the body if it needs some movement that's beyond these shapes. We will approach one last round and then move to some more cooling postures. Let's breathe in and lift the arms. Side bend to the right. Inhale to center and side bend to your left. Inhale to center, stepping out into the goddess pose while breathing out. Breathing in as you straighten into arms and legs. We'll turn the right foot out, preparing for triangle. On the out breath, finding the triangle. From your triangle, soften. Your hands may be in front of the chest or wherever you choose them to be, as we're finding the pyramid pose when you're ready on an out breath. Lift the back foot, step it a bit out for a kneeling or low lunge, the hips moving forward. Then tuck the back toes under again, land your heel, unfolding into side angle, your variation of it. Lifting up into a standing star and beginning to turn the feet around. As you bend your left knee for another side angle pose to this side. Releasing your hands down and the knee, maybe untucking the toes for your low lunge. As you tuck the toes back under, maybe the foot steps in a little. You could stay here if your hands can reach the ground, otherwise choosing your variation of the pyramid pose. To transition to triangle, you might open your back foot and take a breath to extend. Thinking of your sides, making them tall and long. And then bring a bend into the front knee and rise back up into your star, turning the toes, ready for your goddess pose as you're breathing out. Stepping over to the other side of the mat, arms long, thumbs might be crossed, and the side bend to your left. Inhale, come to center, and the side bend to the right. Inhale, come to center, and slowly releasing. Give yourself a little bit of movement before we come into our final mountain pose for this practice. Just standing in this mountain pose, I thought a balance might be nice before we come to the ground. But we'll keep that simple and kind of with the idea of the moon. That usually comes along with stars, which we've practiced already. We're taking this star a little bit further. Let's breathe in and lift the arms out. Stretch out into all of your fingers. Lean over to the left foot. And lift the right as you're pointing the toes away. Now get as much sparkle into this pose as you can have. That includes a lift of the corners of the mouth and a stretch into the toes and into the fingers. Beautiful. Release by standing and lowering the arms down. We'll do that to the other side as well. Same enthusiasm as we had here. Reach the arms out and up. Stretch into the fingers already. Lean to the other foot. And the opposite comes off the ground, pointing out into the toes. You can always tilt this star a little if you want more strength in it. But more important is that big smile on your lips. And then Release, release the whole posture. Move it out very gently. And as we will do still a few postures on the ground, just gather everything that you need. If you want to keep yourself warm, that's probably a good idea there as well. And then come down onto your mat. And I mean this today entirely. Just lying down onto your back. No need to rush. And you might start here with the feet on the ground. You could close the eyes for a moment, let the arms fall away as they do in Shavasana pose, so the shoulders can completely relax. There are a few movements in there, and especially if you have some shoulder problems that you could have felt, and the shoulders might need that pause right now. From this place now, bring your right knee into the chest, and you can interlace your hands across the shin or around the knee and hug it in. Of course, a choice to extend the left leg out long. Trying to bring in a few things that might help us to release from the previous standing practice, as well as from our sitting around that most of us do. You can choose to leave your left leg out long or step the foot to the ground if that feels better. Release your shin or knee and bring the hands behind the thigh, lifting the foot up. Now, if it is possible, the arms can lengthen and the leg too. I ask you, however, to draw the toes a bit down towards the knee or to push the heel upwards. And from there now, using long exhalations to bring the straight leg in towards your body. If it's not 100% straight, it still counts as a straight leg. If you need to, you can slide off your leg. You can slide your hands up a bit higher the leg if that still feels in your range of movement. No pressure, you can always stay with the shoulders and hands low. While you hold here for 2 more breaths, point the foot, toes facing the ceiling. Then soften your knee. If you like, you can keep a hold here behind the thigh and just draw the knee out towards the armpit for a half happy baby. Or you could reach for the foot, outer edge preferably, and the arm on the inside of the knee to draw the right knee down towards the armpit. Just holding here for a few breaths. Left leg is your choice. I will ask you to keep holding the foot, but if it isn't, stepping the left foot onto the ground. Taking the right foot across so your ankle can now rest on the left thigh, and you might use your right hand to guide the right knee open. Noticing how this feels, keep in contact with the sensations, the flow of your breath. And then either you can stay here, you can slide the right arm through between the legs, lift your left foot and take a hold of the back of your left thigh or even the left shin if you prefer that. And you might use your right elbow to guide the right knee open. But please, these are really meant mights. So you can do this, but you don't have to. Just feel into the body, allowing yourself to be still for a moment and just breathe. Noticing if the back of the neck is long or if the head is tilted backwards. And then after a hold here, you might gently rock the legs a little bit from side to side while still holding on in that same position. As you pause the rocking, let's release the left foot back down to the ground and the right foot as well. Let your arms fall away from the body. If you prefer, your legs can be out long, or you might keep them stepped onto the ground, same as we started on the other side. Noticing what the right side feels like, and then the left. Bringing your left knee in towards the chest. And again, interlace the fingers around your shin or the knee. And if this feels good, the hug in, you might lengthen the right leg out long onto the floor. Only an option. Hold in here and breathe. Especially when we spend time in more simple poses that don't flow as fast, it is good to just stay with the sensations, the flow of the breath, and sometimes to compare the sides too. Let's release the shin and slide the hand behind the thigh while you're lifting your left foot up. Begin to flex, so heel to the ceiling, toes fit towards the knee, and maybe the leg can straighten all the way, so could your arms. It's not important to have a straight leg here, so anything that feels full extension for you is straight. And you might now begin to draw that straight leg up towards your body when breathing out. Same options as on the other side. You can keep a hold behind the thigh, or you can slide the hand up a little bit more, go a bit deeper. And here you might notice there's quite a big difference between the left and the right side. One your chocolate side, the other one a little bit neglected in the stretching. As we hold for 2 more breaths, change the positioning of the foot as you're pointing your toes upwards now. And then as you release, bend the knee. Now you could keep your hands behind the thigh again as the knee opens out to the armpit for half happy baby. Or you can reach for the outer edge of the foot with your hand, keeping your arm on the inside of the knee. The other hand could stay resting on the leg or maybe on the thigh of the other. And allow yourself to breathe out deeply again, noticing that the head might have tilted and you could bring your neck back into neutral. Option now to slide the right foot down onto the mat as you lower your left ankle on top of the thigh. Don't rush anywhere, just take your hand and guide the left knee carefully open. Pause here. Noticing sensations even in the more subtle poses. Left hand comes through between the legs, lifting the right foot, and you can take the hold of the back of the thigh or your shin. And you might use your left elbow to guide the knee open. Again, these are choices. Holding, shoulders relaxed. You could from here then gently rock a little bit from side to side while holding the legs in this position. Very subtle movement, maybe giving you another idea of where you're holding on. Then release. Release your right foot back down, then your left. Open your arms and pause. I invite you into a bridge pose. If you happen to have something like a block, you could use that and do a supported bridge. Otherwise, you might also do a normal bridge. To approach, step the feet a bit closer to the buttocks. Don't pull on them, just step them there. Hip distance apart, your feet and knees. The arms by the sides to begin with. As you take the breath in, just tilt the pelvis so the spine flattens out onto the ground. Then squeeze your buttocks, and on an exhalation, start to lift the hips off the floor. You're all starting, of course, with the normal bridge. As you might notice, there's weight on the shoulders. If you would like to support the bridge, you can take the block underneath flat, halfway up, or even all the way up if you want to lift this high. If you're using a support underneath, please rest it underneath the sacrum rather than other parts of your spine touching. If you're holding here, floating your bridge with strength, of course, you might walk your shoulders under, interlace the hands underneath, and lengthen the arms back down onto the floor. Even in this variation, you can change position slightly, as oftentimes naturally the palms get drawn away from each other. If it still feels good in arms and shoulders, you can bring the palms to touch instead in this interlace. Let's stay in our chosen pose for 3 conscious breaths. Once you have completed your breath, I'd ask you to release your interlace if you are floating your bridge, or squeeze the buttocks to lift the hips away from the block. We've all got our arms now by the sides. We're in our bridge and we're rolling down from right the upper back, 1 vertebra at a time, until we come all the way down onto the mat. Let your arms roll open again and either stay here or touch the soles of the feet together and let your knees fall open to the sides. Counting 3 breaths. Once these 3 breaths are completed, you have a choice to stay here or to bring your knees back up over your chest for a full happy baby pose. Different variations for that. We'll start together, lifting the feet up and already aligning our ankles over the knees. Now, these feet can be incredibly far away, and the first option here is to hold on behind the thigh, keep the alignment of ankle and knees, and encourage the knees towards the shoulders and armpits. To come to the full expression of the pose, your arms will come to the inside of the knees, and we're reaching for the outer edges of the feet. Again, just look after your neck and then encourage the knees downwards. Shoulders are fairly relaxed. If you're feeling you're pulling on the shoulders, you might step back to holding on behind your thighs. To me, it's not that important that your tailbone is absolutely grounded, but we don't want to lift it too high off the ground either. Just notice where it is positioned, and instead of forcing it to be somewhere it doesn't want to be, adjusting the rest of the pose if necessary. If you feel like moving within your happy baby, you can start to pull on one foot and then the other. And with that, in a more passive way for the torso, the legs as well, we're rocking from side to side, just by pulling on one foot. Then let's release, stepping the feet back down onto the ground and preparing yourself for Shavasana. So you can have your legs long, resting over a bolster or whatever suits. It will be a brief one. It is just to absorb the physical practice. In other words, don't fluff around too much to be comfortable, rather enjoy the comfort as it is. Keeping your mind attached to the sensations or the breath. And the card that came up for today is a sea of blessings. The universe is a projection from within you, and you are a projection of the universe. You are vast space, and yet you are spaceless. You are a divine ocean of love, a sea of blessings. You are the wind of change that flows through life. Gently deepen the breathing just a little to enable yourself, and maybe to move slightly, to rise up into a tall, seated, maybe supported position. If you usually close the eyes, do so as soon as possible. If you rather steady the gaze, come to that as soon as available. We will move on to Chandra Vedana Pranayama. So basically doing exactly what we did at the start of the class, only beginning to breathe through the other nostril. So thumb and ring finger to play with your nostrils, index, middle finger hovering or resting to third eye point. Same here, you can support with the hand underneath. We will begin by breathing in through the left nostril, closing the right. Change that and exhale through the right. Change nostrils again, inhaling left. Exhaling right. And now continue breathing in through the left and out the right. No changes there. Finding the ease within this breath. And if you would like to extend the experience of this breath, there's the same offering of not only closing one nostril completely, but also slightly closing the other one as well, so that there's still air flowing through, but it's narrowed down, less air can move through the nostril. You would do that similarly for the out breath, of course. Only doing so if it feels right. You're not straining or stressing. This is simply an extension. Nothing you have to do. The technique is full and complete without it. Maybe finding the balance between in and out breaths. I will count the breath now and ask you to continue. Add one more breath after this one and come to rest, gaze steady or eyes closed. Observing. What's happening for you. It's not necessarily related to the breath, although it could be. Let's breathe in to lift the arms out and up. And on the out breath, passing all of these energy centers from the forehead, through the throat, down to the heart, where we're resting. Acknowledging each other with a light bow. Namaste.